So we're rolling?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about the sort of performance aspect of performing the poem Howl, because obviously to do something like that, I mean, how much research did you do into, how much did you read and reread and try and get your head around it, and also how scary was it to actually to carry out the performance?
Yeah, so in the movie, obviously, as Ginsberg, we have these scenes that we return to throughout the film where I'm reading the poem, or we're recreating the first time that the poem was read at the Sixth Gallery in San Francisco. And yeah, as an actor, I kind of want an understanding of what I'm saying, but but on another level, it's a poem, so there are going to be multiple levels of meaning to what I'm saying. And you were talking about Shakespeare, where the language is very poetic, but there's also kind of more of a narrative line throughout. So when you're doing an interpretation on stage in a play like that, you're probably tapping into, one main kind of interpretation of that. Whereas a reading of a poem, yes, you're tapping into an interpretation, but it's not the same kind of narrative line that you necessarily have to tap into. But with Howl, I guess the interesting thing about that is, or that I found after reading it and listening to him read it and studying his life, is that there are a lot of very personal and biographical elements that are put into that poem. And I think first read the poem when I was 15, but only when I prepared for this movie did I realize how much of his life and his friends' lives are in that poem. And I think that's one of the things that the movie makes clear. And one of the funny things is, like, in the courtroom scenes, well, that in itself is very interesting because it's a courtroom scene, but they're arguing about literature. So it's really interesting. It's a very unusual courtroom scene. But a lot of the people are saying, well, in those scenes they're saying, well, it's poetry. You can't break down poetry, and you can't translate poetry into prose, or it loses its meaning. It's poetry for a reason. And that's true on one level, but on another level, the movie as a whole actually goes against what some of these people are saying, and does show the audience how personal this poem is on one level, at least. It can be read on multiple levels, but that the poem was very close to what Ginsberg had experienced as a young man, as a young gay man, as a young poet, up to that time.
No, I don't mean, I'm just saying.